Good evening. My name is Steve Knudsen, and I'm with Fairfax County's Department of Transportation, and I want to welcome you all to this meeting tonight to discuss the traffic calming plan for Arley Drive. And we can start off with introductions. And tonight from FCDOT, we have Ryan O'Carroll, Nicole Machakwe, and Grace Vaughn. And from the Springfield District Supervisor's Office, Peyton Ox is joining us. And Ryan has a short presentation to go through, and after the presentation, we'll open the meeting up to the community for any questions or comments. And if any of the community's task force members are logged on to tonight's meeting, they can introduce themselves following the presentation. Peyton, is there anything you'd like to say before we start?
Just wanted to share that we were contacted by several residents on Arley who are unable to make the meeting, and they asked that we share their concerns. Would you like me to do that now, or should we wait till after the presentation?
Why don't we do that during the Q&A? Would that be okay?
Absolutely. And I just want to let everyone know, I actually went to Orangetown Elementary. My mom taught there for probably about 15 years. And so I had a lot of friends in the neighborhood, so I know the area and I understand concerns both pro and con.
All right, thanks, Peyton. Ryan, if you're ready, you can go ahead and start the presentation.
Sure, thanks, Steve. All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the meeting and thank you for joining us. Tonight, we are going to discuss the traffic calming program for Arley Drive. The Fairfax County Department of Transportation and Fairfax Connector operate programs and services without regard to race, color, and national origin in accordance with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act. For more information, please visit the website listed on the presentation slide. Please note that this session is being recorded and may be shared on social media. Please hold all questions until the end of the presentation, and instructions for how to ask your questions will be provided at the end of the presentation. Today, we are here to explain the traffic calming process, provide an opportunity for community feedback, and answer any questions anyone may have. So what is traffic calming? Traffic calming is the installation of physical devices to reduce vehicle speed. These devices can either be vertical or horizontal. Vertical devices are driven over, such as the speed hump shown in the upper left-hand corner. Horizontal devices can be driven around, such as the raised median island shown in the upper right-hand corner. Both types of devices make the roadway safer for drivers and pedestrians. Please note that through this process, we are not permitted to install stop signs. Here we have charts and images showing the effects of decreased speed. As speed decreases, visual acuity, field of vision, and depth perception increase. Also, with reduced speed, we can see a decrease in stopping distance. Here's a map displaying traffic calming projects across Fairfax County. With over 279 projects resulting in more than 665 devices countywide, every district has implemented traffic calming measures. The chances that you have driven over one are quite high. FCDOT and the District Supervisor's Office collaborate with citizens on all community-initiated projects. The program can be broken down into 5 steps. Step 1 is project initiation. Step 2 is plan development. Step 3 is community engagement. Step 4 is ballot phase. And the final step, Step 5, is project installation. All traffic calming projects are community-initiated. The process begins with a request from the community to the District Supervisor's Office. Once a request is received, FCDOT will complete a basic eligibility review. If eligible, FCDOT will then conduct a traffic study. And if the eligibility and traffic study requirements are met, the community will then form a task force. To meet the basic eligibility requirements, the roadway must be VDOT maintained, have a 25-mile-per-hour speed limit, be functionally classified as local, collector, or arterial, and if it is a collector or arterial, it needs to be a residential street. Once passing basic eligibility requirements, we move on to conduct a traffic study. For the volume criteria, we need between 500 to 6,000 vehicles in 24 hours, both directions combined. For Arley Drive, we had 1,495 vehicles, so we met the volume criteria. For the speed criteria, the recorded 85th percentile speed needs to be greater than or equal to 10 miles per hour over the posted speed limit. This means that 15% of vehicles will need to be traveling at 10 miles per hour over the posted speed limit or faster in at least one direction of travel. The 85th percentile speed was 37 miles per hour in the eastbound lane and 40 miles per hour in the westbound lane, which means that Arley Drive met the speed criteria in both the eastbound and westbound lanes. The next step is plan development. FCDOT will conduct a site visit in the field in order to develop a draft plan. Once a draft plan has been developed, FCDOT will meet with the task force to obtain feedback and amend the plan if necessary. Then once the task force is satisfied with the draft plan, property owners directly adjacent to any proposed measures must sign off on the device placement before proceeding to the next step of the project. There are device placement requirements for all vertical devices. Devices must be a minimum of 300 feet between measures and existing stop conditions, a minimum of 150 feet from intersections, a minimum of 150 feet for continuous sight distance, and it also has to fit within the existing roadway. So we must consider driveways, manholes, utilities, and the grade of the road. So based on those requirements, we created a field map that gives us an idea of where we can place a device. Highlighted in green are possible locations on Arley Drive. After reviewing the field map, we then conduct a field review to see if a device can fit on the existing roadway. Based on available options and our site visit, FCDOT is able to propose 4 speed humps along Arley Drive. The listed addresses belong to the property owners who signed the adjacent property forms because the devices are directly adjacent to their properties. Here we have the speed hump schematic. The speed hump is 12 feet long and is 3 inches high at center. There'll be a white chevron in each travel lane and speed hump signs with a recommended speed of 15 miles per hour on each side of the speed hump. This is a larger image of what the speed hump would look like from the side of the street, with it being 12 feet in length and 3 inches high at center. Step 3 is the community meeting, which is where we are today. At this stage, FCDOT presents the plan to the community to gather feedback. Based on this feedback, the task force will decide whether to amend the plan or move to the next phase. If the task force decides to move forward, we will move to the ballot phase. During the ballot phase, each occupied property in the ballot area will receive 1 vote and send it directly to the district supervisor's office. The ballot period will be open for a minimum of 3 weeks, and the district supervisor's office will tally the votes and notify the task force of the result. On this slide, we have an example of a ballot. The proposed devices will be listed on the ballot, and the community will be voting for the entire plan. The task force is responsible for distributing the ballot packages to everyone in the ballot area. There are 3 ways to return your ballot by the deadline. You can mail in your ballot directly to the district supervisor's office. You can hand deliver it directly to the district supervisor's office, or you can email it directly to the district supervisor's office. Please note, all ballots must be turned in directly to the district supervisor's office using one of these 3 methods. Any ballots collected by the task force will not be counted. Here's a ballot area map for Arley Drive. In total, there are 218 ballots. In order for the proposed plan to move forward, we will need greater than 50% of all occupied properties to vote in favor. Therefore, there will need to be 110 yes votes. And if the required number of yes votes are met, we move forward to step 5, which is project installation. The traffic calming plan will be presented to the Fairfax County Board of Supervisors for endorsement, and the resolution will be sent to VDOT. Once endorsed and VDOT accepts the resolution, FCDOT will work with the Department of Public Works and Environmental Services to schedule installation. Finally, the traffic calming measures outlined in the plan will be installed. After tonight's meeting, the task force will need to follow these next steps. The task force notifies Fairfax County if they would like to move forward with the presented plan. An optional meeting is available to meet with FCDOT to review the balloting process. This meeting is highly recommended to ensure a smooth balloting process. Task Force and District Supervisor's Office will notify FCDOT if the ballots in the ballot area are to be distributed or to the property owners or the occupants. The task force completes the ballot cover letter provided by FCDOT, including task force contact information, ballot received by date, ballot closed by date, and any additional message to the task force or the task force would like to include. The task force will also send the completed ballot cover letter to FCDOT for approval. Once approved, they will receive the verified ballot package. And for the final step, the task force will need to print and distribute the ballots to all properties in the ballot area. So you have two options to ask your questions, chat or speak. Once a chat item is activated on Teams, you can use it by typing your question. If you want to speak, please click the raise your hand icon. And once the host calls on you to speak, you can unmute yourself by clicking the mic icon or pressing Control-Shift-M on your keyboard. Please lower your hand once you are done asking your question. If you are on the phone, please press *5 to raise your hand. When the host calls on you to speak, please press *6 to unmute and ask your question. Once you are finished, press *5 again to lower your hand and press *6 to mute yourself. At this time, please feel free to ask any questions you may have, and we'll be happy to answer them. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ryan. And I do think that at this point, I think we'd said earlier that Fairfax County had received some emails and some comments from people that were not able to attend. So I think Peyton from the Springfield office is going to kind of mention those questions and comments that they had. So Peyton, if you'd like to read off what was submitted.
Sure, we've received several emails from folks with some concerns, and I'm just going to go over the concerns that were brought to our attention. One person had concerns. They said, they really should consider additional speed limit signs rather than just jumping to traffic calming. I did share that the task force looked into that initially. We've had concerns about snow removal, children riding bikes across the speed hump, how the humps may cause traffic congestion and potentially have a negative impact on transit or bus service. Someone else shared the same thing. A couple shared concerns about kids riding bikes across the speed hump. So that was kind of, we had another one that came into our office about emergency response as well. So that kind of ran the gamut. That's what I've got.
Okay. I mean, we can kind of address some of those, concerns, basically the question about emergency response vehicles, we get pretty regularly through these meetings, and we are looking at probably about a 3 to 10 second delay per device location that an emergency vehicle has to travel over. So that's kind of dependent on the vehicle that's traveling over, on the roadway geometry, and then also the device type. So we're generally going to be looking at somewhere between 3 to 10 seconds. And the snow removal is not going to be impacted. These are VDOT designed devices. When they are installed, the contractor that puts the device in will, remove about 1 inch of asphalt on the leading edges. So when they go back to fill it in, they get a nice smooth transition from the road surface to the surface of the device. So that snow plow blade should just rise right over the device as it's going down the roadway, as the snow plow is going down the driveway or the roadway. And then I think also there was a question about, children riding their bikes over the speed humps. And, I mean, we've yet to see any concern over that. Kids are able to, traverse these devices fairly easily on their bicycles. So that really should not be a concern. Was there anything I'm missing, Peyton?
I think you covered it.
Okay. All right. So if we want to move on to people raising their hands, I guess.
Yeah, so I have Michael. Michael, you have your hand raised. You can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
We can, yes.
Yeah, I was wondering if you could give, I know you walked through the different steps of the process, but could you give us an idea of how long each of those things take before you would actually see the speed bumps installed?
Are we talking just about from this point forward or through the whole history of the process?
Well, from this point forward.
Okay. I mean, it is kind of dependent on the task force, how fast they're able to, move through the ballot phase. But we're generally leaving open that ballot. I would say for the area that we're looking at, it should probably stay open around 5 weeks. So there is going to be about a month and a half for, distribution of the ballot and people being able to return that ballot. And then there's generally, 4 to 6 weeks to get the board item if the ballot is successful and we're moving forward with the plan. It takes about 4 to 6 weeks to get on the Board of Supervisors agenda. So we would need to schedule an admin item to submit to the board for their approval. And then once that happens, we're looking at, anywhere from, 2 to 5 months for installation from DPW. So overall, it's going to be, 2, 4, anywhere from, 4 to 8 months after the ballot phase.
You said 4 to 8 months.
Mm-hmm.
And on the
And
ballot,
maybe
did you,
including the ballot phase too.
was it said there's an email option or a online voting option, or is it all mail-in?
For submittal, there is an email option. It just won't be distributed by email, but it can be returned by email.
Yeah, I had a couple more. So I wasn't even familiar there was a task force. Can you let us know who was on the task force and how that came about, how they were selected, that sort of thing?
I do believe that there is involvement from the associations in the area. I do believe there were 2 different associations, and I think they were formed through the association. So I do see like the task force lead raising his hand. Did you have any other questions? We'll kind of call on task force lead to answer that after we answer any other questions.
Yeah, I just had one other thing.
Okay.
I am concerned about property value. I don't know about the other folks on the call. I'd ask people to think about if they were looking to buy a house, would they be deterred from buying a house on a road with speed bumps? I don't imagine you guys have any information on how this affects negatively the property value on the street.
I mean, we did have like a white paper that was from like the late 90s, and I think they did like a comparison in suburban Atlanta that showed that there was, basically the conclusion was they could determine no detrimental effect on property values from the installation of the traffic calming devices.
Yeah,
So
I
it
know
should not impact the property values.
from a personal standpoint, I probably would not buy a house on one. So I am concerned about that. But
Okay. All right. Thank you.
okay, thank you.
And we'll have one of the people from the task force, they can identify their members if that's possible. So that would probably be in just 1 second. I think we have somebody else before that. So we will get to that in just a minute.
Yeah, so we do have quite a bit of questions coming in. So if we could hold our questions to maybe 2 to 3, just to give everybody a chance to ask their questions. So we have Mark and Sue. You have your hand raised. If you could go ahead and unmute yourself.
You should be able to hear me now.
We can, yes.
Well, good. Say, having studied civil engineering, which includes the surveying of roads and the construction of roads, I look at Arley Drive and I'm not surprised when at the top of the hill you can be going 25 miles per hour. And if you get down to the bottom of the hill by the tennis courts, you can be going, depending on the car, 5 or 10 miles per hour faster. So if your data was collected at the bottom of that hill, it doesn't represent all of Arley Drive because a car could be going 25 miles per hour by Sontag Way and suddenly be accelerating down the hill. So Arley Drive's a different kind of place. It's not your typical road. So the fact that we're being pushed into speed bumps versus having a sign for a hill perhaps, or a slow down sign, seems like this is just jumping into something where we could try something which might work to alert people that, yes, you're going down a hill and you need to slow down. That is my question. So how can we stop this process? I saw in a chart earlier that we can stop this process right now.
Well, you can reach out to the task force and, basically they're hearing your concerns. And one of the purposes of this meeting is if, it helps them determine if they want to move forward. If they get enough pushback from the community, from people on board tonight, then they might decide not to move to the ballot process. But if they do move to the ballot process, then, if you're in the ballot area, you're going to get an opportunity to weigh in with your vote. Okay?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, and we do have also a lot of questions coming in the chat. So Grace, if you want to move to the chat, we'll try to.
Nicole, can we go to
Yep.
the Blooms that do have their hand up? I think they're the task force lead. So we
Oh,
can
yeah,
kind of
definitely,
respond to that
definitely.
earlier question.
Okay, yeah, Thomas Bloom, you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hopefully.
If you are having issues with unmuting yourself, feel free to write it in the chat and we'll try to read it for you.
I didn't immediately see it, but it is at the top of the bar. There's a microphone if people are having trouble figuring out how to unmute.
Yes,
Can you
so
hear me
yeah.
now?
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
We can,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, the question of how the committee was formed. The committee consists of local residents on Arley or next to, adjacent to Arley, and myself, who is the president of the Rolling Valley Section 2 HOA, and Jim Klein, who is the president of the Springfield Station on the other end HOA. And it was brought to us by residents either on Arley or adjacent to Arley of the speeding and having young children. And so that's how the task force was formed. I will tell you that the task force is neutral. When I say neutral, we're just trying to figure out how we can get the speeding stopped. We tried stop signs, as Peyton has mentioned. We tried slow down signs, children at play. We did several things to try to get to this. The only thing that we got turned down for everything with the signs. Additional speed signs we got turned down for. So all I'm saying is, when the traffic calming did their study, they came back with 7 speed bumps. And the committee said, no, we think that's too much. And we ended up with 4. So that's what you see on your screen. Now, to answer another question, which was, if you look at the 4 speed humps, 3 of them are in the floodplain area, and they belong to the HOAs. And the HOA board on both HOAs have voted that that's all right for us to have it. We do not need residents to vote on that. The only one, the speed hump by 8800 and 8801, before we went forward with this. The residents both voted to do the speed bump. Now, all that says is there's a presentation, and as it's been pointed out by Steve, it hasn't gone anywhere. We're in this phase of letting the rest of the residents know what has happened so far. So that's where we're at. So I just wanted to answer those two questions. If anybody else would like to join the committee, they're more than welcome. Whether you want speed bumps or are against speed bumps, it doesn't matter. But that's how the committee was formed, of residents coming to the HOAs and asking for something to be done. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be long-winded.
All right, well, thank you. It was very informative. I do want to say, though, I think you all requested watch for children signs, and they were just, correct me if I'm wrong, Grace.
I believe one has been put up, but unfortunately we have to cut the limbs because it's covered by some of the tree limbs right now.
All right,
But
well,
one
that's good
did
to
show
know.
up, yes.
All right, so those were installed. Okay. All right, Nicole, do we want to take some of the questions out of the chat?
Yeah. So Grace, if you want to go ahead and give it a start.
So I believe Audra had the first question, which I think has been answered. She asked who currently makes up the task force. If you have another question about that, though, feel free to put it in the chat. And then the next question was, what is the time frame of these proposed actions?
So the task force, as we said earlier, would need to reconvene and determine if they want to move forward with the ballot phase. If they do, we would re-meet with the task force and kind of go over the steps of that ballot phase. I would assume if they do want to move forward, they would probably be balloting sometime in mid-January, possibly, maybe ending that process in the beginning of February, looking for a board date probably in March, and then hopefully for an installation if everything is successful in the late spring of 2026, if everything goes smoothly. Nicole, is that timeline okay?
It is based off of everything that went smoothly, like you said earlier. Each process has several weeks, if not months, involved, and just depending on where we land on each step. If we land on a date that's close to a board item, we might be able to get that in sooner than later. So there's a lot of variations or variants that could weigh in, but that sounds about right.
Okay. All right, Grace, was that it for that person?
That was it for that person. The next question I have is, how will no votes or abstain votes be counted on the ballot?
So we are looking for a total of yes votes, and no votes, so we're looking for a total of yes votes. We need to have greater than 50% of the issued ballots returned with a yes vote. So all we're looking for is 110 yes votes. If it's not returned, it is kind of basically the same as a no vote.
Okay, thank you. And the next question, you mentioned the properties adjacent to the speed humps need to approve for speed humps to be installed. Does it matter if the owners actually reside at the property or if they rent the property out?
It does not matter, but it was the homeowner or the property owner that signed off with those given street addresses. So
Yeah, so the adjacent property forms need to be signed by the homeowner, as is on tax records. We do not accept it if it is anything else. So yeah, those are definitely the homeowners that signed off.
Okay, and Grace?
Okay, and Daniela has a couple questions. She says, studies show that speed humps decrease property values in neighborhoods where installed. How does the task force propose to address the decrease in property values attendant to this plan?
And we discussed that earlier. We're not really seeing a decrease in property values, and we've been putting these places in throughout Fairfax County for the past 20 years, and we are not seeing any impact on property values.
Okay. She also asked when
Steve,
the
this is
task
Tom,
force.
this is Tom again.
If you don't
So
mind my
we
saying so,
have a
just to
local
follow up on the
realtor.
question that I had asked, you cited a study that was done more than 25 years ago. Do you have any empirical evidence that shows in Fairfax County that the installation of speed bumps does not decrease property values?
No, we don't. But we are not, hearing
Steve?
any concern. Hold on. Yes. Who's speaking now?
This is Tom Bloom again.
Yes.
I was going to mention, I'm sorry. We have a local realtor in the area, the Springfield area, that lives right in Winston-Knowles. So I will make that point to ask them. They've sold many houses in this area for the last several years. So I don't have a paper. It'd be great if there was another study done, but I'll certainly reach out to the realtor and see what he or she has to say about that.
Well, all right. Thank you, Tom. Do we want to go ahead and have Scott and Carol ask their question?
Yeah, just real quick, there was several different questions that the resident asked.
I'm
So
sorry.
Grace, if you wanna finish what she has, and then we'll just go ahead and move on to Scott.
Yeah, so the next question was, when did the task force initiate contact to begin step 1 of the process?
Hold on for one.
So I can answer that. It was May of this year.
Okay.
Okay, and the last question for this section, what studies or sources can we examine to determine whether the proposed speed bumps will yield a tangible improvement in safety?
So all we really have at this point is, the data that we collected qualify the road for the program. And we have done, follow-up studies on various device locations that we've installed throughout the county. We can, if you want to reach out to the Springfield office and ask for some of that information, we can share that with you.
Perfect. Thank you, Steve and Grace. So Scott and Carol, you have your hand raised. Thank you for your patience. If you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Okay, I just unmuted. I have just one minor comment and then 2 questions. It's too bad stop signs are not an option for whatever reason. Time flies, but I think it was about 10 years ago where one was put in between the elementary school and the north end of Sontag. Maybe that was allowed because the school was closer, or things have changed. And he said that's out. Minor question. On the ballot then, there's just yes or no. There won't be any question or options to ask about other options. I mean, I guess the other options is what we're discussing, but it's just going to be a yes or no on the ballot then?
Just a yes or no for the device locations that they move forward with.
Yeah. And then final question. Was there any thought or options on asking for random speed checks by the police?
So, I mean, you can always reach out to the police department and see if they'll do some traffic enforcement or speed enforcement on this road. That can happen anytime. But generally the time frame when, you're seeing a lot of traffic on the roadway and, a concern with that is generally during rush hour when they are the busiest. So it can be, a matter of, staffing.
That wouldn't be a continuous thing then. That would be a sort of as requested.
When they're able to get to it, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I'll mute here and
all right, thank you, Scott.
Okay, thank you. And Grace, if you want to move to
Yep. Okay, so the next question in the chat is, why speed humps? Why is this the choice we have? Why not other options?
So we've talked about some of the options. Basically, we're not allowed to use multi-way stops as a speed reduction tool. It's not their intended purpose, so those are not available to us. We do have speed humps and speed tables. The speed table probably isn't quite as effective at reducing speed, and the task force went with the device that they felt that might have a greater impact, which would be the speed hump. We do have some horizontal devices that narrow the roadway, but they are a little bit more difficult to place on an existing road. So we don't have that many tools that are really, truly effective at, reducing operating speeds, but the speed hump is, has proven to be pretty effective at that. And, the speeds that were recorded on Arley Drive were fairly significant.
Okay, and then a comment: as a parent of 2 toddlers on Arley Drive, I would sacrifice any loss in property value to reduce the speed that people drive on Arley Drive and protect my children. It's excessive, dangerous, and shocking. And then the next question: what other calming options were evaluated, if any? Can you share details of that assessment if it occurred?
So like we said, we generally will walk the road, look to see what will fit on a particular roadway. So it's basically, physical, visual, assessment of what we're able to put on a road. So we don't have like anything to show or share, but it was, reviewed in person by staff.
Okay, and the next question: are there any examples in Fairfax County where speed humps have resulted in civil liability for an HOA?
Not that I know of. We've been threatened to be sued multiple times, and nobody's ever actually moved forward with that. So there is no liability or exposure, legal exposure for the association.
Okay, and the next one: you mentioned that the data to confirm the study was collected on a single day, June 11th. Is that really a representative data set?
Yeah, we're generally counting, during the school year. It was late in the school year. I do believe that, Arley Drive has a fairly high daily volume. We felt fairly comfortable, collecting it when, school was coming to an end. We count midweek, which is your typical higher use of roadways in the area. And we do feel, there was a pretty typical data collection and fairly representative of the activity on this roadway.
Okay, and the next one: I think we agree that there is a street safety problem, but I'm not sure there aren't other problems that could be as problematic as speed. And they cite a couple different types of dangerous driving. Other less invasive solutions may be better to address multiple issues. If the task force does not come to consensus or the proposal goes to vote and is voted down, what are the next steps to continue addressing and identifying other possible solutions?
So through our process, if this isn't successful, then there's generally a 2-year wait before we'll have a road re-enter into the program. So we will have a period where if they don't move forward, if the task force decides to stop at this point, or if the ballot is not successful, there's a 2-year period before the road can re-enter into the program. As far as other applications we could use here, we did put in some Watch for Children signs, and I believe that they just went up today, or was it today or yesterday, Grace? I'm not positive, but it was just recently. We could look at $200 additional fine signs for this roadway. And those are basically the tools that we have available through this process or through our programs.
Okay, thank you. The next question: what has been done to study the placement of the speed humps for all seasons? The far east speed hump closest to Side and Stricker is located in an area that ice is over and remains ice covered long after the majority of Arley is clear of ice. is it safe placing a speed hump in an area where rapid braking for a speed hump in icy conditions is far more likely to cause an accident?
So we were, checking the road elevations out there to make sure that, there's not too great of a slope on this roadway where we place devices. And we do feel that, the locations are all safe to be considered for the installation of these devices.
Okay, and then 2 comments. Somebody says they have a bad back and would be greatly affected by the bumps. And somebody else says their toddler is at risk every day by speeding cars on Arley. And then there's a question about why horizontal interventions were not considered.
So we did, think about the horizontal devices. Again, it is a little bit more difficult to place those on the roadway just because of, the geometry of the road, the footprint of the device, and things of that nature. They probably aren't quite as effective as the vertical devices, and they are a little bit more difficult to place.
Okay, and then another comment, I believe. I live on the corner of Arley and Applecross. In addition to cars, motorized bikes and scooters and motorcycles have become problematic on Arley. They race down Arley regardless of speed or other traffic. I belong to Nextdoor neighborhood app. The speeding motorcycles have been mentioned on that app. And then another question, if the committee is neutral, how are you going to determine whether or not to go to the next stage and promote the proposal to the voting stage?
So that would be something that, the task force would have to discuss amongst themselves, so basically they're trying to get a feel for how the community is responding to the information that they're receiving. And I think they would, if they feel that, there is no, pushback or major concerns over, moving forward, then I'm assuming they're going to let the community make the determination by using the ballot process.
Okay. We've lived here for nearly 20 years and have never seen police speed traps or police cars on Arley to ticket speeders. Any reason that is not being considered first?
Again, it's just a resource concern for the police, giving time to do enforcement on, residential streets is tough. Staffing is always an issue for the police. As we said earlier, you can reach out directly to the police. You can have your association reach out. You can ask Peyton if she would reach out and contact the police and see if they can do some enforcement. And, hopefully they could spend some time on Arley Drive. I think we would all like to see that.
Okay, there's a question about road markings. The road is wide and people drive recklessly, passing on the shoulder, driving like it's a 4-lane road or on the wrong side of the street, U-turns in front of cars, etc. But I think the question about road markings.
So, we do have some road markings, that we just feel that the speed hump is going to be a little bit more impactful than the striping that we have available.
Okay, this next one, why is Fairfax County Police Department not set up more often collecting revenue?
And again, that's a staffing concern. So there, a multitude of roads throughout the county, and they're just, stretched pretty thin.
Okay, and then if further non-invasive steps were just initiated today, is there not justification for reassessing and looking at whether those less invasive actions have any impact before moving to a more invasive step?
We could wait on the ballot process and people could make that determination on the community side, and that would be fine. We're rolling into the Christmas season, so we definitely don't recommend balloting at this time. And if you do see, like people behaving better because of the Watch for Children signs, you can let the task force know. They can, notate that and help that make a determination if they want to move forward. And also, when people are voting, they can, use that information. If they've, seen a reduction in speed or better, driver behavior because of the installation of the signs, that can help direct how they might want to vote.
Okay, and then somebody comments there has been an increased police presence and tickets have been issued, but excessive speeding remains an issue. And then the next question, how much money is each of these speed humps going to cost the taxpayer?
Who cares?
Nicole, what are we looking at now? Around maybe 10,000 per device?
Yeah, I would say it's
That-
more like 15, in between 10,000 and 15, just depending on the width of the road. So if Arley Drive, the width is pretty large than, the average roads that we work on. So that would probably be closer to 15 with signs included.
So around 60,000 for the 4 devices being proposed. Okay.
Okay, and the next question asked for the data collected during the study to be available for review.
Okay. Yeah, we can send that over to the supervisor's office, and you would just need to reach out to Peyton, and she would send that over to you, whomever requests it.
And once again, we are recording this. The recording should be made available in about a week or two. We'll provide that link to Peyton once we have it available. So any participants that were unable to attend, or if participants that are attending now want to review it, they're welcome to. We have also sent the meeting slides to Peyton. So if you are wanting a copy of the meeting slides, please reach out to her and she should be able to send that to you.
And I think she just put her email in the chat, or the Springfield supervisor's office email in the chat.
And we do have a hand raised from Danielle. Danielle, you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Great, thank you. I was just wondering, when we were asking about the other data collected during the measurement window, you mentioned that we could reach out, I guess, again to the supervisor's offices. Is there any way you could just send it to the committee that's working with the HOA now?
Well, we would probably send it to the supervisor's office, and she can distribute it to the task force.
That'd be great. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
There's another question in the chat about, will this presentation be available to the public, and if so, where?
So it will be made available. This presentation is viewable by the people that joined tonight, and that should be, available as soon as we finish. And then we will put a copy of the meeting on YouTube in about a week or so, Nicole? Is that about how long it's taken?
Yeah, about a week or so. And like I said, we'll have that link to the district supervisor's office. Peyton, she did put her email in the chat. So feel free to reach out to her if you're wanting a copy of the recording or a link.
And there's another comment from Darren. He asked to reread his whole comment, and so I can go back to that one. Why is the Fairfax County PD not set up more often, collecting revenue from drivers who, by one study alone, are breaking residential speed limits by more than an average of 10 miles per hour? Wouldn't 2 officers spending even a minimal amount of time, 1 day a week, generate a great deal of revenue? It would have a beneficial side effect of having people spread the word via Waze or Google Maps by posting live updates that the police are monitoring speed limits on Arley. It is a pretty safe bet that once a bunch of people pay a few fines by not paying attention to their speeds, that would get spread in today's parlance, go viral to slow down on Arley.
Okay. So I mean, again, it is a resource concern for the police. You can reach out to the police station over at the Springfield office and ask a request for some traffic enforcement. But again, I know that they're kind of strapped as far as manpower is concerned. And I think Peyton just raised her hand. Peyton, is there something you would like to add?
You can certainly ask the commander here at the West Springfield station to get officers out there. I know that Officer Chesno has been out there on several occasions, and he's actually went to the home of the owner of the yellow Corvette. That's been a big problem several times. I know the officers are on Huntsman a lot, and we still get complaints about vehicles speeding even though officers are on Huntsman. But if they can always be on Huntsman, then we should see if they can spend some time on Arley as well. I don't have any problem requesting that from the commander.
All right,
I'll
thanks,
also see
Peyton.
if I can get some data on any tickets they may have collected in the last few months.
All right. Okay. All right, Grace, are we moving on?
Yes, there's one comment. I think the police working the 25-mile-per-hour portion of Huntsman has helped. And then another question from Daniela. Is there a specific area of Arley Drive that is of greater concern than other areas in particular? I don't want to be dismissive of another community member's concern of her children. Could we target that zone with other measures?
So yeah, I mean, if people have specific areas where they are hoping enforcement might happen, they can drop that into the chat. Okay, anything else, Grace?
Yes, another comment. I live near one of the nature areas without houses on either sides, and I've definitely seen many cars excessively speeding.
All right.
And somebody says that would help to build a map of effective areas to focus efforts. Just some more comments. I think that's.
Okay. Are there any more questions that we have not addressed yet?
I think we've addressed all the questions in the chat, unless I'm missing someone. If you could put it in for me, I'll read it. But I think I'm not seeing any new questions as of now.
No, I think you covered them all, Grace.
Okay. All right. We can keep the meeting open for another 2 or 3 minutes or so, but I think, we have pretty much addressed most of the questions that we've had. I know I just saw somebody say something about they would like to see the information regarding property values and what the real estate agent might say. So, Mr. Bloom, if you are able to get that information and share it out with your community in any way, that would probably be helpful for the people in the area trying to make their decision.
And we did have another question, Steve. How is Huntsman different from Arley? There are many crosswalks and road markings on Huntsman. Just curious.
So I do believe that Huntsman might be a major collector, Arley's a minor collector. So their functional classification's a little bit different. Huntsman is a much heavier traveled roadway, and it does serve a larger area. So that could be the reason why there are more crosswalks, painted crosswalks and things of that nature there. And, a greater presence of pedestrian facilities. So Ryan just pulled up on the screen some contact information. So if anybody does have a question following this meeting, you can reach out to FCDOT staff at dotinfo@fairfaxcounty.gov. with Arley Drive traffic calming in the subject line, or call 703-877-5600 and ask to talk to somebody about Arley Drive's traffic calming process. And then the same for the Springfield District Supervisor's Office. It's just springfield@fairfaxcounty.gov. Arley Drive traffic calming in the subject line, and the phone number of 703-451-8873 should get you to probably speak with Peyton at some point. So, and if we don't have anything else, any other questions being asked, I think we'll go ahead and end the meeting for tonight. Peyton, is there anything else that you would like to say before we go?
Nope, I've got nothing.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you everybody for attending, and thank you for your time.
Steve, Nicole, and
Yes.
Grace, thank y'all very much. Appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have
Yeah.
a good night.
Thanks, folks. We appreciate it.